We're husband and wife and business partners who aren't afraid to live life on the edge.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Juliana.
From success and wellness to candid conversations on travel, food, and culture, we're here for it all.
All right, here we go. All right, here we go, guys. Welcome. It is solo episode today, even though we're two people. Is that considered a solo episode? It's a duo episode.
I guess if we are one person, you and I.
We are, aren't we? One love.
Well, I did say that to you yesterday.
What did you say? Oh, yeah, you did. And you weren't even being sarcastic.
No.
You were actually being nice. You're like, well, you and I are like the same. Like we both count for whatever we were talking about.
It's because you were being annoying about a work thing. And I was trying to explain to you that you thought I was trying to do things separate from you. And I was that's not how it works.
No,
we're the same thing.
I'm just saying, listen, I have really good, strong input and I just want to be included. That's all.
I think you were jealous.
No.
I think you were jealous because
of little old me. I don't get jealous. It's not like I'm a fiery Italian or anything. Anyway, so here we are. And actually, that is a really great segue because today we are here to talk about one of my favorite things in the world. And Ryan, I would say it's also one of yours. Italy! Yay! Look at that excitement.
I thought you were going to say spending money.
Oh, yes. Well, it goes hand in hand, but we're going to Italy.
Yep.
Very excited. We're going to Italy. I guess I was looking down before. Now I'm going to look up, but we are going to Italy in June. Should we say the date? I don't even know. It depends when this is going to air, but we're going to Italy. We're planning a wonderful time there with family, and I'm so excited to get back on that Italian soil.
Yeah, with family. We're very fortunate we get to travel with family a lot, often. Mm-hmm. We've traveled with your family extensively for years. We've had an opportunity to travel with some of my family as well. And it's great. And it's kind of funny, like when people travel, and we've heard from other people, friends, acquaintances, people through business and everything. It's like, oh, you guys travel with your family, but you work with your family. You see everyone all the time. You still travel together. It's like, yeah, because then you're just doing all those things you love doing, like experiencing new food in areas of the world and going to beautiful places, and you get to share that real time with your family. And it's great. It's fun.
It's the best. And actually, that reminds me of, we've been taking our kids everywhere we've traveled since they were 1 and 3. So people
don't recommend it.
No, stop it. I do recommend it. For the longest time, people would say to us like, oh my God, how do you travel with kids? I was like, listen, they're going to bitch and moan and shit and cry and be really annoying no matter where you are. I love my kids, obviously, but I'm just saying, they're a lot of work, especially when they're tiny and you're always changing their diapers on the fly. And my point being, do you want to be next to a wailing child, like just at home, or do you want to be doing it in some of the most beautiful places in the world? What?
I don't know. Some of the other people that are in those beautiful places, in the world, might have a different opinion about being next to a wailing child.
Yes, I'm not saying you take a wailing kid to a restaurant, and our kids were never wailing.
I know, I'm joking.
I'm just trying to say, listen, no matter where you are, there are some circumstances that don't change. Like you said, we're with my family all the time. We're working together all the time. So we're still doing those things when we travel, but the setting and the scenery and just the experiences changed quite drastically. So it's nice to have that option.
Yeah, I mean, traveling with kids is really no different from just having kids in general. Like everything's sort of stressful, everything's sort of a mess. And
really
then you
advocating
get,
for it.
Yeah, and but then you have these like beautiful moments, and it's like no different than when you're just sitting at home and you have like a beautiful moment with a baby. They did something for the first time, like a big laugh for the first time, and it doesn't. Everything else that was like the night before where nobody slept, or the baby was sick and spitting up and all those things in that moment doesn't matter because you're experiencing something really cool and exciting. And it's the same thing when you travel with kids. So going through the airport and with a double stroller and 2 car seats and luggage and crying babies and busting your back and, cutting your hands open and doing all that, and the stress of other people on the plane, getting annoyed with your baby and just lugging all that shit all over the place, all that kind of disappears like the minute we're standing in the countryside in Ireland, and we have a beautiful picture of our kids that we blew up and printed on this like canvas sheet of our kids in Ireland. And it's just like at that moment, none of that other shit mattered.
Well, it was all worth it.
Yeah.
It's funny, as you were just rattling off like all those kind of horror
all true stories.
Scenarios,
Yeah.
I'm like, geez, think back, it's so much easier now. So much, like Ryan would literally, because I couldn't physically carry a lot of these things, like the 2 airplane safe or airplane friendly, whatever it was called, approved car seats, heavy duty, was the Diono brand, I think. Good stuff, heavy duty, and the double stroller. It was wild, but it was so worth it. And now it's like, now they can fend for themselves, in many ways. So
yeah, well, we also, the reason we were traveling with the 2 giant car seats is because we found out, for our own sanity and the sanity of a lot of other people on the planes, that when we brought car seats onto the plane and put our kids in their own car seat that they were used to being in the car.
Yeah.
The first time we did that, I think both kids fell asleep before the plane even took off.
Yeah.
And they slept the entire time.
Oh, complete travel life hack. If you're traveling with tiny ones, even like toddlers, and you're worried about them on a plane, bring their car seat, install it on the plane seat. And if your kid sleeps in the car, it's like a total life changer.
But just beware, 100% almost every single time you get onto a new plane, the stewardess or the cabin steward is going to try and tell you that you can't have that. They're going to try and tell you,
you can't have the car seat.
You cannot have the car seat. We're going to have to gate check that. And you have to fight for yourself because they're wrong. If you have what's it called? Like FAA approved?
Yep.
FAA approved, and the car seats have like this little sticker of an airplane on the back of it. And you have to like show it to them. And most of the time they have no idea what it even means.
Well, also, I feel like in the US, they were a little more aware, right? It was just when we were in Europe that people like didn't know about it.
I don't remember, but I just remember almost every single time. And then the steward or the cabin steward or stewardess would try to tell us we can't have it. And we'd be like, no, we can. And they'd have to get on their little walkie-talkie, or they'd go up and talk to the captain. And the captain would come back and be like, okay, yeah. And at that time, now we've held up the line getting onto the plane and people are getting annoyed. I'm just like, trust me, you're going to want us to have this car seat up here. But every single time, it was a pain in the ass. But like when we were flying to Italy, for example, or Ireland, those are long flights. For us, flying out of the Northeast, whether we were flying out of Boston or New York, most of the time, those are 6 to 9 hour flights. And it was
overnight flights too.
Usually we were doing the overnight flights. Yeah. Because that would also work out well for us. And also with the kids' sleep schedule, we kind of timed it so they would sleep on the plane or have a higher likelihood of sleeping on the plane.
Yeah.
There's definitely a couple trips I could have gone without.
Without what? Just the
Doing
trips in
all
general?
that.
Oh, yeah.
Like our first trip to Venice.
Okay, so that was our first plane trip with the kids and our first international trip with the kids. They were 3 in 1. Yep. We had a direct flight, I remember, from New York to Rome.
And I was on opioid painkillers, muscle relaxers. Prescribed. Muscle relaxers, like very strong anti-inflammatory drugs, because I had destroyed my lower back like 4 days before we were supposed to leave.
Yikes.
And I couldn't even move. Yeah. I could barely make it to the doctor's office so that they could prescribe me this medication. And I remember being in so much pain once we got onto the plane, because of having to go through the whole airport like that I was sick on the plane just from being on so much pain. And then the first stop was Venice.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful.
Gorgeous.
But the thing about Venice is you have to go over a bunch of small bridges to walk over the canals. And when you're doing that with a 3 and a 1-year-old and a double stroller.
And a thrown out back.
But luckily your dad was actually with us.
Yeah.
So he would help me carry the stroller.
Equipment, yeah.
Over the thing. And it was horrible. And speaking of traveling with children, that was kind of funny. I think it was the first night, our first meal there.
Yep.
Was that Alessandra when she was 3 years old? Fell asleep face first.
In her pasta or pizza? I
think it was pasta.
Yeah.
Bowl of pasta.
I feel like that's like a rite of passage. If you go to Italy as a little kid, you have to fall asleep in a bowl of pasta or a plate of pizza.
Yeah.
I think we have pictures of Alex, my brother, doing that too.
Probably. I'm sure a lot of people that travel with kids have the same experience of like kids fighting off. It's one of the cutest things in the world whenever you see a baby doing that. When they're like fighting so hard not to fall asleep and, whether they're eating or not.
While they're chewing.
Yeah.
And you just see like the eyes fighting. And super cute.
But honestly, you might be right. That might have been our first trip. So
it was.
I mean, it could only have gotten easier from that. That was by far the worst travel experience I've ever had in my life.
With the exception of the trip itself being really great.
Yeah. There is another story we have about a horrible traveling experience. I don't want to get into it now, but it involved the dogs.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. We'll save that one.
I don't want to get into that now.
This is our Italy episode because we're going to Italy, so we're going to be a little more specific about that. But by now, we've either encouraged some of you to take your kids on a long-haul flight or we've completely deterred you, but I hope we've encouraged. So we're going to Italy. We're going for 3.5 weeks, and we are going to spend the majority of the time in Sorrento. Ryan mentioned in one of our other episodes how much I love Sorrento, and you do too. I love how I have to keep saying that. Ryan loves it too.
I never said I don't.
I know, but I just feel like, I don't know, maybe it's Ryan's got, like resting bitch face. Ryan has resting grossed out face. So sometimes I'll just catch him and he's got like this disgusted scowl. So I just want to make sure in case one of those comes along.
That's a lot better than what you usually call it.
He loves Sorrento. No, that's what I call it.
No, it's not.
What do I call it?
Resting dick face.
Oh, do I? I might have said that too. Oh yeah. Okay. That's a good one. I'm so clever. Anyway, so we're going to Italy. We're going to Sorrento. And Sorrento, if you don't know, it's right on the Amalfi Coast. It is a great base for people that want to explore the Amalfi Coast. So I'm sure you've heard of like Sorrento, Amalfi, the island of Capri. By the way, I wore my Amalfi Coast lemon dress for the occasion. And you look very white and Amalfi Coast ready. I like that. So Sorrento is a great base because from Sorrento, at least used to be less busy than some of these other hot spots I just mentioned.
It was when we started going there.
It was. I don't know now. It's gotten more and more popular, busier and busier. But the idea was always that it's not as crowded and crazy as Positano. You go to Positano.
Or Amalfi.
Yeah. You go to Positano for the day, you're going to be like walking like this through the little Italian alleyways, shoulder to shoulder with people. You still have to go. It's so beautiful. But so Sorrento, little less crowded, great base. You can take a ferry to any of these places from Sorrento, any of the places I just mentioned. And
you also, from Sorrento, you stare at, when you're at the beach or you're looking out at the coast, you stare at Mount Vesuvius.
Yes.
Which is pretty cool.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
assuming it doesn't erupt. But I mean, it's a very cool setting. And the beach and at Sorrento, all the beaches are incredibly beautiful there, but I love the whole thing about the beach in Sorrento is sort of at the base of just this sheer wall of rock.
Yeah.
And not like some of the other, like Amalfi and Positano, they kind of like funnel down towards the beach, where this is just like a straight wall of rock that you're at the base of. And it's beautiful. Yeah,
it's so cool. I mean, the whole area is just like the dramatic cliffs and like the turquoisey / deep blue water. It's just, the buildings are so colorful. It's just the best. I have boldly said before, I think the Amalfi Coast might be the most beautiful place in the world. And obviously I haven't been everywhere. Pretty gorgeous. Mm-hmm. So we haven't even gotten to the food yet. I mean, that's such a huge deal as well. So we're going to be there. And as we mentioned, we're going to be with my family. So it's going to be fun and crazy and chaotic and delicious and all those good things. What else?
The food. Now is all I can think about.
Yes. So
for me, so like we also live in the Northeast of the United States, which we're very spoiled here, especially in Rhode Island when it comes to Italian American food and also seafood.
Yeah.
And Italian American food, like when you think about like lasagna and like spaghetti and meatballs and braciole and stuff like that, a lot of that is sort of more like Roman style.
Well, spaghetti and meatballs, like the way that you have it here in the States, isn't even Italian, really.
Well, no, I know that. That's what I'm saying. And neither is lasagna.
Oh, lasagna is, I believe.
They don't really make, like, when do we ever get lasagna in Italy?
Well, maybe we don't get it. I feel like they have it. Also, what you're saying is red sauce is very, like, Southern.
Yeah. But, like, so, like, a lot of, like, Italian American food is based on, like, certain, like, that, like, sort of that region of also, like, Neapolitan style food, like, more red sauces and stuff.
Pizza.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's very Neapolitan. Italian food in Italy is not like Italian American food here for the most part. But I feel like it's like there with the mixture of all the seafood when you're on the Amalfi Coast, because a lot of it is seafood and fresh seafood. And it's my favorite kind of food. So it's, when we go there, we're really spoiled. And also, a lot of people might not know this. When you go there and you think, I want to get a pizza, you can be prepared to pay like sometimes $4 or $5 for a full-size pizza.
Amazing.
Italy. Like into some of the best pizzas you've ever had in your life. Or go out to restaurants and go to beautiful restaurants to get a full, like, nice big bowl of like a seafood pasta with all fresh clams and mussels and fish and everything and calamari. And maybe you pay $10 for that. And it's like one of the best pastas you've ever had in your life. It's like such a combination of, it's a beautiful setting. You go the right time of year. It's like the perfect weather. Like we've been to Sorrento in September mostly.
Yep.
And it's like beautiful weather. So you get beautiful weather, beautiful scenery, delicious food, and some of these old world towns and cities and everything that are thousands of years old, hundreds of years old. Is so charming. Walking around Italy and walking around some of these towns and cities at night is one of my favorite things in the world.
Yes.
It's an amazing experience, one we can't get enough of.
Yeah, I agree. So it's funny. I have a birthday coming up, and the last year or so, people are like, oh, next year's, your big birthday. Turning 30. And everyone's like, oh, what do you want to do? Do you want to have a party? And I'm just trying to think of like, what would be such a special, fun thing to do or place where I'd want to be. And granted, like Ryan said, we live in a gorgeous place, especially I have a summer birthday. So Rhode Island in the summer is just so, so pretty. It's always nice to do something by the water here. But I'm like, I want to be in the water on the island of Capri for my birthday. So we're not going to be there on my birthday, but it's pretty darn close. And so I think that'll just be extra special to really, and a nice way to make it all about me. What?
I want to be in the water on the island of Capri.
What am I supposed to say?
I don't know. It's just ridiculous.
Why is that ridiculous?
I don't know. It just is.
Why?
I don't know if that's ridiculous or the fact that we're actually doing it is ridiculous, but either way.
Come on, Rye. Listen, dream big. That's what you got to do. So yes, pretty lucky, pretty excited. A lot of people we know are going to Europe this summer. It's funny. We actually have some friends that are going to be flying here the night we get back. They're going to be coming in from Paris. So that's going to be pretty hilarious to hang out with friends we haven't seen in a while, all like jet lagged and messed up. So that'll be funny.
Yeah, but at least we'll have an extra set of hands.
Yeah, extra set of hands. Oh yeah, right. I forgot. I'm supposed to give little like signals to our friends. They want us to do that when we record. Hey guys.
Yeah. And luckily the best jokes are the ones you explain.
So we talked about Sorrento a lot. Great base. The best. I also love Capri, obviously. So let's talk about the beaches in Italy. Okay. So for those who haven't been, it's just a completely different beach experience than you're probably used to, whether you're from the Northeast or even, the West Coast.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I always think of I know where you're going with this conversation. At least one of the things I know you're going to talk about.
Okay.
And where we live in Rhode Island, there is a beach, and it's a beach I grew up going to. And there has always been, as long as I can remember, I remember my parents talking about this and my grandparents talking about this, how like they charge you to get onto the beach. And it's something, a lot of beaches in the United States, they charge you to park, but they don't charge you to actually go onto the beach. So that's one of the biggest things that I think a lot of people might not necessarily understand about beaches in specifically Italy, but a lot of other places in Europe, is you have to be prepared to pay. Most of the time, you can't go onto the beach unless you pay to rent a chair and an umbrella.
Yes.
And in some cases, towels. And so it can cost you, if you have, even 2 people, or for us, like 4 people, it costs you like 150, 160 euro sometimes.
Well, it depends. Of course, depends
for 4 beds and 2 umbrellas and everything.
Yes, depends where you're going. And there are some places where it's much heftier than that. But just in general, I was going to mention that, but also just the fact that a lot of the beaches, and granted, of course, there are beaches you can go to which are open to the public. Not so many in the places we're talking about, but just in Italy in general. But a lot of these areas on the Amalfi Coast, for example, they have beach clubs. So essentially, when I say club, it's not like people are dancing with neon lights to techno. Okay, maybe
it is if you're in Greece.
Oh, in Greece, yes. Greece, it does definitely have that feeling to it. But it's like a restaurant on the beach, essentially. So like Ryan said, you're renting the chairs, you're renting the umbrella if you want one. You can even rent towels. Quite frankly, I love it. I think it is so convenient because when we're home and the kids want to go to the beach for the day, we are schlepping so many things. Now we have one of those big cool cabana tents, which is like another whole thing we have to trek. And these beaches, you show up, you have your bathing suit, your sunblock, whatever else, and you're not lugging stuff. And you go and all the heavy things are there waiting for you. Not to mention, once you sit down, you can order a cappuccino for breakfast. You can get a Negroni. If you're feeling feisty, Campari Spritz, Aperol Spritz, whatever it is, you can get a whole pizza. Delicious pot. And we're not talking like...
It's a different experience.
Yuck, frozen pizza that you might get at some of the beaches here. We're talking like very authentic, artisan, brick oven deliciousness.
Yeah. I've said this to quite a few people, some friends and everything that I know were traveling to that area or specifically going to Sorrento. I'm going to name a couple places right now, but...
Do it.
Our boy, his real name...
Oh, yeah.
Is Antonio Pizza. This is his real name.
Shout out, Antonio. You're the best.
Antonio Pizza. This is his real name. We go to Leonelli's Beach, which is owned by a family that we've gotten to know very well. One of the nicest families you'll ever meet, and they own a few businesses throughout Sorrento. But Antonio has been working there for a number of years, and we met him one of our first days we ever went to Sorrento, and now we stay in touch with him. Has sent Juliana some gifts before. We talked to him. Gifts, yeah. We send each other messages.
Oh, wait, you said gifts?
Gifts.
Oh, I thought you said he sends gifts.
No, gifts.
Oh, I said gifts, yes.
Yeah. Well, and we do send each other messages on holidays and stuff.
Yeah, so sweet.
But you go and you're at Leonelli's Beach. Again, you're staring at Mount Vesuvius. And then, we would go in the morning and Antonio, we'd get all set up and he'd come down with your cappuccino, double espresso for me.
Yep.
Sit on the beach. Our kids would be in the water. Like the sun is just coming over that wall, that like 50, 60 foot wall of stone ahead of us. Mm-hmm. And it's like one of the most beautiful things in the world doing that.
Truly.
And then, in a little bit after that, Antonio Pizza comes down with a pizza.
Yeah.
We would order a pizza from there and a pizza, a couple spritz.
Yeah. Oh, it's just heavenly. So, okay, if anyone is looking to book a trip to this part of Italy specifically, I can tell you, our friend Adolfo there, he owns AAA Concierge. You can look that up, AAA Concierge. He's the one that introduced us to all these people and all these places and all these things there. So he's the best. But yes, Antonio Pizza is such a doll, and I'm excited to see all of them soon.
Yeah. But going back to like what you were saying as far as Sorrento being a nice central spot.
Yeah.
We found it to be a great hub because you can go to Sorrento, you can do like a day trip to Pompeii, you can do a day trip to Amalfi or Positano. Nerano, we found was very charming, small, little, more of a quaint little town.
I think a lot of people recently got to know more about Nerano because Stanley Tucci did his like food travel series, and he went to Nerano and he ate the pasta alla Nerano, which is it's essentially almost like a pesto, but with zucchini. It's got basil and zucchini.
Well, I was going to say, or you could, obviously Naples is right across the bay. You can take a ferry there. You can take a ferry to Ischia or a ferry to Capri for the day. We did a couple overnights in Capri. I mean, you kind of get the feel for it during the day, I think. So much. Capri really turns into a little bit of a ghost town at night, in my opinion, because so many people there are there for the day.
Well, yes. And I think, but that is also for a lot of people, that's the draw to wanting to stay overnight because not only do you have like the day trippers taking the ferry, but you get a lot of cruise ships. So you get people that are in for the day from cruise ships. So it's like this tiny island really gets jam-packed. And then at night, it's much quieter. So, ghost town or kind of like really beautiful and magical and quiet. It's got both. By the way, Sorrento is just an hour car ride from the Naples airport. So just as far as, transportation wise. Well, we're excited about that. Let's think. We aren't just going to be in the Amalfi Coast. I mean, that is going to be like I mentioned before, like the bulk of our trip. But we're trying to figure out the other parts of it. So we got to kind of determine that. It's funny. So what I read recently is that for people that are opting not to go to the Amalfi Coast, whether it's just, sheer crowd size or pricing or whatever it is, people are going to Puglia, which we went to. We've only been once so far. So that's probably like our least experienced, least discovered part of Italy so far.
But we went on in the off season, right?
We did. So we did not get like the best representation of it. We were there in April. And it really, from what I hear and see, comes to life as like a beautiful summer destination with gorgeous beaches. And you'll see, like, if you look up Puglia, you'll see all the like white little, almost look like Italian hobbit houses, the Trulli. So it's really different from other parts of Italy. But that, I don't know, we're talking about maybe making a jaunt to that part again, but that's a different world. It is like our au pair from Italy, Alessia, she used to refer to it. It's more wild. And by wild, she was really trying to say like less built up, more natural, lots of trees and tons of like olive groves and just really, really nice. But the food's a little different there too. That's where taralli come from. Those little circular cracker things we like.
Yeah.
Those are yummy. They're biscuits, but savory. They have sweet ones too. What are you thinking about?
Nothing. I kind of found it to be kind of the opposite of wild. It was very like industrial farms. And yes, there's a lot of olive groves, but they're like industrial farmed olive groves.
Yeah.
They're not like the Tuscan countryside olive groves on the hills. These are flat, like the Italian version of cornfields. Seriously, they're like flat. Cool. There's giant tractors everywhere. And warehouses in the back where they process all the...
We have to go back because I feel like that was definitely a part of it, but not the biggest part. And I think like those were kind of different locations.
But to me, it felt like we were like, it was the Italian version of going to vacation like in Iowa.
Huh, interesting.
It was
on the water? Yeah, that's interesting. Well, we got to go back. We have to give it another go around.
Yeah, there were a couple beaches there that I think would obviously be, like you can look them up. If you look up like beaches in Puglia, you see these incredible looking beaches.
There's always pictures online floating around of Polignano al Mare. And it's like where these two cliffs. Do you remember we took a family photo?
Yeah.
Two cliffs meet and there's like gorgeous water in between. That's a popular swimming spot.
Yeah. Yeah. It was good. I don't know. Maybe I didn't have a great experience because it was off season and everything.
It was April. We stayed at this like unbelievable, beautiful resort with pools and things that we couldn't use because it was too cold. I mean, we just didn't, I don't think, get the full experience being the time of year that we were there.
I guess, but you do remember that story? What did you say the first time your parents took you to Disney?
Oh,
What did you say?
Okay, so I was 6 years old. First time we went on a trip, family trip, we went to Italy. So my first experience, seeing these villages and other places where I didn't live, they were real. They were old and historic and real. But then we went to Disney after that, which I almost feel like was kind of a mistake, on my parents' part, because we got to Disney and I was 6 years old and I looked around and I was like, this is all fake.
Right.
The excitement that a 6-year-old should have been feeling at Disney wasn't there for me. It's there for me now. I love Disney. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So what was the place called? Borgo Ignazia?
Borgo Ignazia. Yeah, and it's only like one of the top hotels in Italy.
It's a beautiful hotel. It's a beautiful resort. Plenty of, A, B, C-list actors, actresses. They've all gotten married there, been there, whatever.
All of them. They've all gotten married
It's like 20 years old, if that. It's like 15 years old. So like when you go to Italy and you experience these beautiful little places like I was talking about, walking through some of these old cities and old towns at night, it's beautiful. And 90% of the charm is the fact of how old it is.
Yeah.
And all the things you can imagine that have happened on the same streets you're walking down when you're in Florence and when you're in Naples and Rome and you're amongst this incredible stuff. And you look at some of the architecture and some of the cathedrals and in amazement that these things were built so long ago when people didn't have the engineering capabilities and the mechanical structure or even the combustion engines to be able to move these stones and rocks and do all this. That's like 90% of the charm of going to these places. And then you go to this joint and it's like, I get it. They built it so it looks like that. But then you look at it and it's like, it's fucking cinder blocks.
I think, this hotel, this resort, it's built to look like an old city, an old town. So
right. And like an old Pugliese city.
Yeah, and it does. Yeah. It looks historical, it looks old, but it's also, if you know that it's
like going to Star Wars Land in Disney.
Epcot. It's like going to Epcot.
Stupid.
It's not stupid. It's so cool.
They had an amazing event there that we went to. There was a very cool celebration. It was really amazing. I don't know the name of it or anything. I just remember it was really cool. And
they have a series of festivals called like the Festa di Borgo. You can look it up online.
It's incredible.
Nice. Yeah.
But again, it's not why I go to Italy. They could build that same friggin' thing in New Jersey.
Yes and no. But okay, this event, and again, they do these all throughout the year, maybe not in the winter, but the whole, like there's a piazza, which is obviously man constructed. It's not like an old piazza, and it fills up with vendors and dinner tables. It comes to life as if, how long ago would that have been? 100 years ago or something like that?
Probably more along the lines of like a bazaar or something that could have existed as 500 years ago.
Okay, so I was only a little off. Either way, it's so cool. You're like fully immersed in this historical event. But the thing that's different from New Jersey is everyone, working there, it's like everyone's actually Italian. The food they're making is like genuine, real Italian food. They have musicians. They had stilt walkers. They had fire, dancers.
Yeah, it was a circus.
It was so cool, but it was all like, they were all authentically Italian. Everyone speaking Italian, and the food was incredible and the music was great. So I don't know. I would go back just for that event alone.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a very cool event. It was, I think we kind of got lucky that we happened to be there when that was going on.
Yes, we did.
It was like a very circumstantial situation. Mm-hmm. We did not go there with the intent of attending that thing.
No, we got lucky.
Yeah. I can't say that I would go all the way to Puglia and stay at that resort just to go to that event.
Okay.
Unless you're telling me we are doing that and I don't know about it, but...
No, I have not booked that.
I personally would not make that my
goal,
my intention when traveling over there.
All right.
But it was a very cool experience.
Super cool. Yeah. In case you haven't noticed, I do the planning for our trips. I desperately try to include Ryan as much as possible and get some opinion. You don't enjoy the planning.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
You don't desperately try to include me.
You know what I used to do back in the day when the kids were little? I remember because I didn't want to say okay, this is this place and this is what this hotel's called and this is what this costs and this is this option. This is, what this hotel option is and yada, yada. I wouldn't want to do that. So I would print pictures, just beautiful pictures of the area and be like, which appeals to you? Remember, I would print them out and show you and be like, just pick. And you're like, well, what's the difference? What do we do there? I'm like, no, but just based on these, what do you like? What, excites you? So that was never so successful. But no, I do. I wish we could sit down together and say, all right, we're going to plan this trip out. We're going to knock it out. Okay, so these days, let's look into these activities or let's hit this region. But I really kind of just do it and then you show up. Right?
If you say so.
What's your take? How does it work in your mind?
I don't know.
I drag you kicking and screaming.
No, I don't think that's what it is. I think a lot of the time we travel, if not all of our trips, typically a portion of our trip does include your family. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the time, your brother. But your family has this habit of talking about the same exact thing every day, multiple times a day. In some points, it's just you ask my opinion, and I said, we just talked about this. We just decided that thing. Why are we talking about it again? Can't we be on to the next thing? Why are we working in reverse?
So
no, I don't want to talk about Puglia again for the 18th time in 3 days.
So are you mad I just brought it up?
No, I'm just saying, when you say, oh, now you don't talk to me that much about it, I think I discuss things in an appropriate amount of time.
You're I gave you my one-word answer, now roll with it.
You asked my opinion, I give my opinion. I gave my opinion.
Well, sometimes you'll give a quick one word, yeah, I don't know, that's fine. And I will want to make sure that you're fully understanding what I'm talking about or that you have the full scope of what I'm referring to so that you can maybe change your answer if you didn't know enough before. Now you know more.
If you didn't like my answer?
No, not even. Sometimes, but not even that.
This is where our son gets it from.
Oh, yeah. He's a Frioli through and through.
If you don't like the answer, you just annoy the shit out of the person until they change their answer.
Yep.
And then you're like, oh, okay, cool, great.
No, so the difference, my brother and I will gab a couple of old hens all the time. And he, so much more than me, once a plan is made, will go over the different scenarios and the ways that it's totally a commitment thing, but you could maybe alter the plan. So it's yeah, well, we're doing this, but I don't know, maybe we should do this. Maybe we should do that. I used to be more like that. I'm way more definitive now. I, however, have no problem entertaining the conversation. And I just love to talk about things that are fun, exciting, and interesting to me. So, Italy is one of those things. So I'll, sit through
there has to be some level of
OCD.
It's got to be OCD, but there has to be some sort of a diagnosis for this kind of behavior.
Yeah.
Of just a complete inability to be satisfied with the decision you've made, that you have to continually dissect stuff, even to the point where
wait, just to be clear, you're not talking about me.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Not at all. I am super definitive.
All of yous.
No.
All of yous cannot be satisfied with making a simple decision to the point where even sometimes we land and we get in the car and you're like, should we go here?
That's my brother.
What are we doing?
No. When I was younger, 20s, whatever, I would be the person that couldn't decide what to order on the menu. And then I'd have total FOMO thinking I ordered the wrong thing. I'm not like that anymore. Now I'm I choose it. I love it. I live it, whatever. Alex is different. He's younger. He's got 3 years to catch up.
Yes, your brother satisfied that FOMO at a restaurant by just ordering one of everything.
That's true. He does that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's him though.
So then he doesn't have to feel like he missed out.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. We'll let you guys know how the trip goes. I am sure we're going to have lots of fun stories. Always fun to hear Ryan's opinions too. So that'll be fun. We'll document a lot of it too. We'll get some good footage so everyone can feel like we got a good glimpse of all these places we've been talking about today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening to us. I hope that you'll also get to plan a trip to Italy soon. And if you guys have any questions or, thought that you want to share about it, let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
All right. See you next time.
See you next time. Thanks. Bye.
And that wraps up this episode of On the Edge with Ryan and Juliana.
Thank you so much for listening. And please be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform.
We'll see you next time.